What's going on, everybody? It's Rick from Only Football. Welcome back to the Week 14 recap and reactions. Me and Kyle are about to give you another great episode. We're going to go over Week 14. We're going to go over our top five, and we're going to end it with a little fantasy talk. Stay tuned. Let's go.
Welcome to Week 14 edition of Only Football. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Rick. Let's go.
What you got there?
Another Mike's Harder Lemonade. This time it's Black Cherry. Mike's Harder. Sponsor us. We don't care. We'll take the money.
We'll take thinking about that. Yeah, I know what you're thinking about. All right. Well, first off, there's so many storylines to get into. This has been a lovely Week 14 for anybody that does YouTube or any type of football videos, especially because the Baker Mayfield story on Thursday night is something that will be in a documentary one day. I don't doubt it at all.
Insane. It's insane what happened on Thursday night. He probably had one, maybe two practices with that Rams team as they signed them earlier this week or whatever, or last week. Sorry. He had maybe one or two practices. Top. Yeah. Maybe one time, maybe like one full practice tops. Right. And he goes in and leads them 98 yards to a score. It's ridiculous. And if you caught our live stream for Sunday Night Football, you heard us. I mean, we were talking about it, and I think, Kyle, you went live for that game as well for Thursday Night Football. So we caught it here on Only Football. We caught that like historic moment happen.
Yeah, you gotta love it, especially I thought Russell Wilson was immune to time zones. Yeah. But Baker Mayfield's immune to time zones. I mean, he went from East Coast to West Coast. He may have practiced one time. He's probably sleeping on McVay's couch. Let's be real.
Oh, or yeah,
he's definitely in an Airbnb or at a player's house.
He's at a Holiday Inn right now, getting that free breakfast.
Yeah. And then just suits up. And we talked about it a little bit, where a lot of this has to do with just plug and play. I mean, it doesn't always work that way. And a lot of this just had to do with speaking the same football language. And the story I told was, I think on Sunday, but McVay has always been a big Baker Mayfield fan. They have similar personalities. They're really obviously big personalities. They fill up a room when they're in it. And they were flying, and Sean McVay requested if Baker could sit next to him, and they talked ball the whole flight. And we talked about Matthew Stafford and the injuries and the neck and the concussions and his wife not wanting him to play. And maybe Baker has earned himself like a bright future with McVay as his guy. I don't want to overanalyze it, but it does seem that this is, a really, really good matchup for them.
And yes, I agree. And I don't want to be a victim of the moment either. I don't want to be a guy that's like, oh, this is going to work off the bat. These guys are meant for each other. But the fact that he was able to come into this game, again, take them 98 yards for a score to win the game is like insane. It's just like one of those things where it's like, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. That was not supposed to happen at all, especially on a Thursday night game, right? Like, it's just not supposed to happen. And it happened. And Baker Mayfield headbutting people again, like looking like Baker Mayfield from year two with the Browns when they went to the playoffs. It just looks like it's working. It looks like it's almost meant to be. And we did touch on it again on our Sunday Night Football live stream. That this may be something that is like a future thing. It might be Sean McVay, Baker Mayfield taking on LA,
Yeah, totally. And if even if he doesn't stay with the Rams long term, this is definitely a a good thing for Baker moving forward because I think other teams would want to take a chance on him. I mean, it seems like just one game, but there was just a lot that game said about a person that might carry over past just 1 week of football. It might be the reason a team takes a chance on him next year or why he stays with the Rams pending what happens. But that was just a really just amazing game to watch and
Yeah.
especially to be live for it here. I think they were down 13 points with 5 minutes left and put
Mhm.
up 14 points in the last 5 minutes. It was tremendous. Um, our
Brady
next
like,
game,
Brady like,
yeah,
really, right?
very
Yeah.
Brady like, especially what he did against the Saints.
Mhm.
Not so Brady like this week. We'll get to that, but um, what did you think of the Jets at Bills game? Because the Bills already had lost to the Jets earlier in the season, and there was a
Mhm.
lot of, I think the spread they had the Bills winning by 9 points, which a lot of people thought that was too much for a Jets team that already beat the Bills, but the Bills just kind of handled the Jets, the whole game, and
Mhm.
that the head coach in the post game conference was like, we're gonna play them again," and they were like, "What makes you so sure?" And he's like, "I just have a feeling, we're gonna be in the playoffs and play the Bills again." So, what do you think about that?
I I really like this game. This game was close. The spread, I mean, they won by 8, so I mean the spread was wrong for the Bills, at least winning by 9, right? Um, what I really liked was that the Bills still came out and beat them. Like they 100% beat them. There was no way of saying but I will say the Jets defense put a lot of pressure on Josh Allen in that offense. They held Stephon Diggs to like 3 catches and like 30 yards or something like that. I would know, I have him on my fantasy squad. And they pressured Josh Allen. They this game started off with 10 consecutive punts. 10
Yeah,
consecutive punts. That's how you know this defense on both sides is really, really good. And I almost want to say they're both very elite defenses, right? The Jets right now remind me of the 2018 Bears. Their defense was very, very good, but they couldn't get anything going on offense. Their offense was like, it was rough to watch. There was games here where they showed out. It was like, oh man, wow, they scored 30 points. That's insane. But the Bills offense finally got it going. Josh Allen, I think, had a rushing touchdown. He had one to Dawson Knox. They scored on 4 consecutive plays. They went up 20-7. And then I think towards the end is when the Jets got to 12 points because they ended up beating them 20-12. So I mean they struggled, but the defenses on both sides really they took this divisional rivalry to the next level as far as like,
yeah.
hey, we're just as good as you on the defensive side of the ball. We may not be there yet offensively, but we want to show you that, hey, we're not the Jets team of the past to just be pushed around.
Yeah, and one guy that was pushed around was Garrett Wilson. And did you see
Mm-hmm.
what he tweeted after the game?
No.
He posted this. It was like a little video of a hit that he got, and
Yeah.
he wrote or quoted. He said, "I ain't got a call this season. One ref told me this ain't Ohio State no more."
Oh no. I
And
love it. I love it. I love it. I
yeah,
love it.
so it was just a bad day in the offense, but it was also snowing and weather. But yeah, totally
Mm-hmm.
that Bears comparison, I could totally see it.
Yep.
Another team that we're getting into that time of the year where the playoff picture is going to start forming, but then there's a couple that aren't going to form until week 18, and one of
Mm-hmm.
those divisions is the AFC North.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens, the Bengals. I mean, the Ravens right now have a 1-game lead. They are holding that division, but they got a backup quarterback in. When's Lamar coming back? If they just
Mm-hmm.
slip up one time, it feels like the Bengals are going to jump them really quick. So the
Yeah.
Bengals would not be jumped on Sunday playing at home against the Browns. Don't think anybody expected them to lose to the Browns, but I
Mm-hmm.
guess a big story in this is Deshaun Watson just still doesn't look very good. He didn't have another. It kind of looked like the Texans game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just pretty meh.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the Browns look like they had a better spark with Jacoby Brissett at this point. So, do you think that a lot of this is just not playing the game in 2 years, or do you think there's a mental component to it? And do you think he can get back to being Deshaun Watson that he was before all this stuff happened?
Look, I think I said it last week too. I think it's just the game speed. You can't replicate the game speed in practice. You can't do that with reps. The preseason, when he was playing the preseason, sure, that's about as close as you can get. But we saw what Justin Fields said last year during preseason. He's like, man, this game's slow. And then he came into the regular season and was like, whoa, he was just like, what happened? Right.
Yeah.
Dumbfounded almost. But Deshaun Watson actually didn't have the worst game. He didn't have as bad a game as he did last week. I think he went 17 for 23 or something like that, 201 yards and his first touchdown with the team. So that was, that was nice because he was really like lost. He didn't contribute to anything offensively last week. And this week, he's got his first touchdown, 200 plus yards through the air. And then it was just kind of late in the game that he really sputtered. But I think he's going to get to it eventually. This is like when I said that Tua just needed a couple more games to really start going off, and then they started scoring 30, 40 points, the following weeks after they only had scored, 16 or something. So it's going to take a couple weeks. Yeah, because of just the game speed. But how important is Ja'Marr Chase to this Bengals team?
Huge.
Right?
Huge. And I would say he is the best receiver that is the least important, though, because this is the best receiving core, in my opinion, in the NFL. With T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Ja'Marr Chase, there is probably not a receiver that could be as talented as Ja'Marr Chase that could sit a game in the Bengals. I'm not saying they would be like as good. Nobody would be as good without that guy. But they can like squeak out some wins against the Browns and stuff like that. But when Chase comes back onto this team, it's just the LSU thing with Joe Burrow in that matchup. That is just, it's one thing to be Devontae Adams and David Carr. It's like, oh, they're college quarterbacks, but they spent 7 years apart from each other. It's not going to be the same when they come back. The Joe Burrow thing and Ja'Marr Chase, I just don't see this a lot where quarterbacks, they go from college to the NFL without skipping a beat like that. And they don't get
tough.
picked and traded. Yeah, it's very tough.
Yeah.
I saw that with Noah Fant and Drew Lock. Obviously, they both played at Iowa together or wherever the colleges that no one really cares about. But
nobody cares.
Yeah,
literally nobody cares.
Yeah, like that. Maybe like 100 people tops, like in the world.
Yeah, in the world.
But yeah, I'm not surprised by Cincinnati. I'm not surprised if and when they win the division. That was my prediction. I do think that they're going to win this division. They're playing good ball right now. Their offensive line is starting to play better, and that's a really good thing because I would say that the Bengals' ceiling is how good the offensive line can be on that team, because Joe Burrow has all the tools to do it all, to be a Super Bowl MVP. But can that line hold up against teams? Luckily, they don't have to play the 49ers in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So you think of some of the best pass rusher teams in the AFC, the Bills, no Von Miller, the Chiefs, not really known for a crazy rush. They're in a good conference playoff-wise, but, it's all about winning the big game. And right now, spoiler alert, I think the 49ers have the potential to go. But let's talk about something that was probably more surprising is that the Cowboys almost lost to the worst team in the NFL. And the Texans also use a 2-quarterback platoon versus the Cowboys. They played with 2 quarterbacks. And this game was just a head scratcher in general. Dak Prescott, I talked about it on a video I posted earlier. I have it here. He's when he throws 35 times or more, he's 16-24, like overall as a record. 16 wins, 24 losses. When he throws 34 or fewer times, he's 44-13. So,
oh my God.
There are to compare that to. There are quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, where when he throws 44 or more times, he has, he wins a lot more than he loses, right? So there's something to be said about Dak Prescott and having kind of a style that he has to stay within that includes having a very good running game And then after, quarter two, kind of like pulling away from that and throwing some tight end stuff. But he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not
Yeah.
Herbert. He's not one of these guys that can really just sling it all game long and beat you with their arm. And I think a lot of people don't really know that about Dak Prescott. So I wanted to mention it here because this is a game where they found themselves down in, and they turned to Dak Prescott to throw the ball, and they almost lost the game to the worst team in the NFL. And I would say that, I guess there's a big enough sample size of them destroying Minnesota and
Mhm.
scoring 30 points in the fourth quarter against the Colts.
Mhm.
But you just feel like at this time of the year, I don't want to bet on a team that could have a bad day at the office. Not in the playoffs, not
Mhm.
right now. Like we had this team number 2 in the NFL on our power rankings, and they almost lost to the Texans. These are things that just can't happen, like
Yeah.
ever, if you're
Yeah.
going to be in the top 1, top 2. Um, I don't. I'm not saying I'm going to read into this too much, but
Mhm.
the Cowboys are going to fall because of that on my top 5. That's just unacceptable this time of the year.
And I agree. You can't have that this late into the season, week 14, when you're already one of the teams that is projected to go pretty far. Sure, they're looking at like a number 5 seed right now, a game on the road, unless the Eagles somehow start like losing and the Cowboys just keep winning, right? Unless that happens, they're looking at a number 5 seed and a game on the road for the playoffs. That's an insane stat for Dak Prescott. I didn't realize that. Usually when you it's like you said, like with Patrick Mahomes, with Josh Allen, with a lot of these other guys, it's like, hey, we're gonna beat you, and that's what ends up happening is they have a better win-loss record. But it's kind of alarming that he has such a bad record when he throws the ball a lot more. And
Yeah,
this
I
is
was
with
surprised too.
like over 100 rushing yards from not only himself, but Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, and I'm pretty sure they each had a touchdown. Yeah, Tony Pollard and Ezekiel each had a touchdown, which is insane. I think that honestly, this says more about the Houston team, almost like what you were saying is a joke last week's episode, where you're like, this is the battle for Texas. They must have taken it very seriously because, like you said, they almost lost. Dak Prescott had an interception in his own inside his own 5-yard line that they got, right?
Yeah.
Luckily the
Stingley.
defense, Demarcus Lawrence was able to get into the backfield. Rex Burkhead held him back, and then they were able to sack Driscoll, one of the 2 quarterbacks for Houston, and they were able to kind of stop that, get the win from there, because a score there would have been very difficult for the Cowboys. It would have been 30-20 at that point in the fourth quarter. So it would have been very difficult for them to come back. So this says a lot about the Houston Texans and how hard they played against Dallas. Credit to them, but usually with like a tandem quarterback in one game, it's not going to be a good time for anybody.
Yeah, and also, like this could have been just like a common thing in the NFL where you overlook your opponent and you forget, like, hey, this is the NFL. Like, these are professional athletes, and at any point you can lose. But it's just a really bad look for the Cowboys to have struggled like that. And I guess give the Texans credit, but that interception that you're talking about that he threw on the 10-yard line or the 5-yard line, whatever, Stingley Jr. caught it, and he was returning it, and he like went all the way to the sideline, and then he went all the way back in, and he could have ran it in for a touchdown. And he Daniel Jones. He just tripped over his own feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I don't remember seeing that.
I was watching it, and I was like, "What? Oh my god, what is so hard about feet for you guys, man?" Like,
one in front of the other.
Yeah, just keep it rolling. You're doing fine.
Yeah.
I think he just saw that end zone and just got happy feet. But yeah, I mean, Cowboys they're gonna drop a little bit for me. But if this was a playoff game, they wouldn't have overlooked their opponent. So we'll see.
True.
We'll see. I still think that they could be a dangerous team, but yeah, definitely a bad look. We had an NFC North matchup who I thought when I first saw this, I didn't look at the spread, the money line, the over under, and I said I'm gonna go with the underdog here, and you were like, yeah, I agree with you, and we both went Lions, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
wow, he agreed with it. Then I
Yeah.
opened up DraftKings, and I saw that the Lions were actually favored to win this game, and I
Hmm.
was actually pleasantly surprised, and I talked about it a little on another episode we did, where I said in the beginning of the season, Hard Knocks was out, football's right about to start, and I was like, the Lions are my team. Then they barely lost to the Eagles,
Yeah.
and then they won a couple games, and I was like, the Lions are good. And then they lost like 5 in a row, and I was
Hmm.
like, oh, the Lions, they tricked me. They tricked me, like, the Lions are bad, and they
Yeah.
tricked me. And
Yeah.
then they go on this, like, 4 out of 5 game win streak where they're taking the ball away, and I'm like, the Lions are good again. And it's like, are they tricking me again? And I've come to the conclusion that they're not. The Lions are a good team, and they just lost a lot of football games in a short period, but they're a different
Yeah.
team right now. This is not the same team that this might be the same team that played week 1 against the Eagles, but this is not the same team that was playing week 4 and 5 and blowing wins, cuz they almost beat the Vikings earlier in the season, and they
Hmm.
blew it. They
Yeah.
totally blew it. And they didn't let it happen this time.
Mm-mm.
And I'm not saying I don't know what the odds are that they make the playoffs, but I will say that if this team does squeak into the playoffs, I wouldn't want to play them. I wouldn't want to play a team,
Nope.
especially when the Lions are playing on turf and they're indoors. They're a different team. They play really good indoors. Um, they put up a lot of points on a regular basis, and their defense takes the ball away. And I don't see a huge weak spot right now on this
Hmm.
Lions team. They're the Cincinnati Bengals of the NFC.
If I would have told you week seven, the Lions are 1-6. If I would have told you, hey, the Lions are going to be favorites to beat the Vikings on week 14, would you have believed me at 1-6 in
N-
week seven, Lions?
No, I would have said it's impossible.
And that's just insane to think about. This Lions team was 1-6 week seven. Uh hey Ginger Ninja, what's going on, man?
What's up,
Thanks for
dude? Welcome to the show.
joining us. Welcome.
Oh,
This
sorry.
Lions team was 1-6 in week seven. They came into this game against the Vikings with still a record below 500 and were favorites to beat the Vikings. You don't see that except NFL season 2022. That is the only time you'll ever see that, because what the Lions have done is insane. What they've done ever since being 1-6 is absolutely insane. And I've said it once and I'll say it again. Dan Campbell, they bought into what Dan Campbell was selling. They bought it, they wrapped it up, they delivered it to every player, and we're like, yo, buy this. This is yours. We're going to do it. And what they do, they won 5 out of the next 6 games. They just beat the Vikings, and it's working. And like you said, I wouldn't want to play the Lions right now in the playoffs, or in the playoffs. And this is what. And then one thing I will say about the Vikings defense, I've thought they were just very suspect ever since week 1. Honestly, their defense has been very suspect. This is, I think, the 4th or 5th game in a row they let up more than 400 yards of offense to their opponent. That's not good. That is not good. No matter how good your offensive players are, you can't let up more than 400 yards of offense to your opponent in 5 straight games. That is a recipe for disaster in the playoffs for the Vikings, and they better figure it out, because I don't think Kirk Cousins has enough as a quarterback to overcome a bad defense.
Yeah, this is so weird right now. I'm looking at the playoff picture, and it says on the bubble, these are teams that would be on the outside looking in if the season ended today. And the
Mm-hmm.
number 1 team is the Bucks.
The Bucks, wow.
And I thought each division has to have a team represent, because on the bubble it has the
Not
Bucks.
necessarily.
I thought, yeah, because there was times where like an 8-8 team would be hosting a
Mm-hmm.
playoff game because they won their division.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
but it's got all 4 teams in the NFC South outside the playoffs right now.
Really? That's weird.
Yeah, this is the NFL app, so I I don't know what that means, but the reason I pulled it up is because the Lions are 1 game back from the Giants and the Seahawks right now.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, there's a lot of football left to be played, and if you're the Lions, you're going to work every day knowing you're going to get in the playoffs. Like, I don't care what other teams do; they're not going to win out. We are,
Oh, yeah.
and that is cool. That is the team in the NFC I'm rooting for to get into the playoffs. I want to
Mhm.
see the Lions go in and freaking make the playoffs with Dan Campbell and the chalk on the pants and like, dude, I'm gonna be so excited.
And this is a Lions team that has Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, a couple of other offensive players on like rookie deals or really cheap deals for next year. This might be the recipe for the future here. You know, you're seeing a below 500 team, right, or at 500 team with a lot of affordable deals on their offense that can make this the future of the Lions. That can make it future playoff appearances, future NFL NFC North crowns, right? Like they look good, and like you said, their offense is they're creating turnovers, and that's what that's just what they're doing, and it's really good. We've got Jao C on in the YouTube comments, Lions baby. They look elite everywhere. They're looking scary, like Kyle said. He wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs, and neither would I.
Oh no, I would not. And to think where this NFC North division's heading, I'm just gonna say it. Amon St. Brown is gonna be considered a top 10 receiver. I
This
really think
year,
so.
or
I would say, yeah, by the end of this year. I think the Lions are gonna squeak into the playoffs, and St. Brown is gonna remember this podcast because we're gonna come back to it. We're gonna quote this. St. Brown is gonna have like one of those like 2 touchdowns, 175-yard playoff games in the wild
Mhm.
card round, and he's gonna be considered a top 10 receiver in the NFL. And
and
I'm really excited about it.
And you saw that they threw a pass to Panay Sewell, their tackle or their guard on
Yeah,
I don't know what it was. It was hilarious. That's just like that just shows you that they're having fun right now on that offense, and it's great to see.
the big guys gotta eat too. Let's
Yeah.
let's stay in the NFC and let's talk some Eagles Giants.
Mhm.
Uh the Eagles I was watching like there's a show called it's called Volume, and it's with Colin Cowherd, and he like drinks wine and smokes a J, and he's like being bad off air,
Mhm.
like
Yeah. Oh, I'm so
and
bad.
yeah, he's like kind of whispering, like it's kind of funny. But anyway, this guy comes on that's like a professional bettor, and this just proves that you can make an argument using stats. And I talked about this on a stream yesterday. The Eagles were the worst team since Hurts took over
Mhm.
on the road against the spread. And the
Mhm.
Giants game, they made all these stats up, and I was like, just shut up. All right, just shut up. The Eagles are going to win by more than 7
Yeah.
because the Giants are tumbling and the Eagles are climbing. And how high can the Fly Eagles fly? I think they can fly higher. I think they could win a
Mhm.
Super Bowl this year. And I think Jalen Hurts is the MVP. This wasn't a speed bump or nothing. They just went right through the Giants. They basically said, "Hey, stay in your place." Don't like the fact that people even thought that these two teams were in the same league when they
Yeah.
shared the same 7-1 record, 7-0 and 7-1. It was like the Eagles are right there. No, no, they weren't. It was a fluke.
Mhm.
They flipped the quarter 5 times in a row and it landed on tails somehow. This is a Eagles team that is going to just well, forget about the Eagles. This is a Giants team that I have missing the playoffs. What about you?
Yeah, 100%. And I want to say because I keep going back to the Bears, right? Like I compared the who was it, the Jets to the 2018 Bears. I'm gonna compare
Yeah.
the Giants to the 2020 Bears. The 2020 Bears started the season off, I think, either 5 or 6-0, and then missed the playoffs.
Oof.
That's the Giants this year. The Giants started off hot. We were talking about Dable being coach of the year, Dable leading the Giants to a playoff season. They have just completely fallen off. And you can see that even if they were to make the playoffs, they cannot play well against a playoff team. playing against the Eagles like this, yeah, you may have had some good, like some good QB pressure, some good defensive plays, but it's like if Jalen Hurts can't beat you through the air, he's just gonna run it down your throat. And guess what? He ran it, scored a touchdown, flips it to AJ Brown, does this, does that. The Giants don't have enough weapons on defense. The Giants don't have enough weapons on offense. One of the longest plays, I think, before the fourth quarter on the offense was like a Daniel Jones 17-yard run. That was like their longest play in 3 quarters against the Eagles. Dude, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles look good. Their defense is good. This is the most complete team, and I'm pretty sure I've said this before. This is the most complete team in the NFC. The most complete team in the AFC, probably the Bills. Bills and Eagles, most complete teams in their respective conferences.
Yeah, and I would still take the Eagles over the Bills just because the Bills don't have like a solid running game, and the Eagles can beat you. Like you're gonna stop the run, they'll beat you with the receivers. You want to shut those down, they'll bring the tight ends into it. Like
Miles
they
Sanders
can't get
went off
anything.
too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you
Yeah.
can't say that about the Bills. Like you can't be like, oh, the
Mm.
Bills are gonna like run the hell out of the football. Like they never do that. You know,
Mhm. They also clinched the playoff berth.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
no. I'm not saying like the Bills are the best team in the AFC probably.
Oh, I was
But
talking about the Eagles. Sorry.
oh yeah. But yeah, I just feel like the Eagles right now, they're playing at a really high level. What it's
Mhm.
really going to come down to, I do think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL this year, but will the lack of playoff experience become a factor in the postseason? We'll save that for a future episode. But that is
Mhm.
the only way I could see the Eagles missing the Super Bowl is just the old choking, you know. Um, hopefully they don't. Hopefully they don't. All right,
Yeah.
so another divisional game. This was a division heavy week. We had the
Yep.
Ravens playing the Steelers. You had the Steelers. I had the Ravens. Um, this wasn't a really. This is exactly what you'd expect an old
Mhm.
school Ravens Steelers game. But Kenny Pickett ended up leaving the game with a concussion in the first quarter, and Trubisky stepped in,
Yep.
not able to get the job done against the Ravens. Would you take from that?
Um. Yeah. This thing. I think Trubisky's. I think Trubisky's going to be one of those backups that you're like, I really hope we don't have to use him in games, kind of backups. You know what I mean? Like, I really hope our QB1 does not go down because it's going to be a rough go for Trubisky. That's the kind of career I think is in for the rest of his
The
NFL playing
Nathan
career.
Peterman of
Yes,
Trubisky.
the Nathan Peterman type of career where you're just like, please, please, nobody sack him and get him hurt. No, Kenny Pickett got sacked, I think, by Roquan Smith. He got hurt. And then Trubisky comes in. He looked bad. Right? I think Roquan Smith actually intercepted Trubisky, if I'm not mistaken. Something like that happened. And then you have the Ravens. J.K. Dobbins came back. You had Gus Edwards, like, I don't know, do way better than he has in, this entire season, basically doubling his yards per carry in this game. And then you had actually Tyler Huntley go out with a head injury. And I think the third string quarterback, Anthony Brown, came in for that. But it was really just a rushing type of game for the Ravens. Again, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins had a touchdown after like a 44-yard run. He had 120 yards on 15 carries. And then Gus Edwards had 66 yards. So they were running all over this Steelers defense. And I like the Steelers defense, but this is, and they, for the most part, and it's kind of been recent weeks where the Ravens offense has been looking like dog water, but they kept it at dog water. The Steelers defense kept it at dog water, right? Yeah, they have a third string quarterback there, and they were literally rushing the ball. Sure, that's kind of like a excuse, I guess, if you want to call it. But they did well against that Steelers defense and against TJ Watt, and just knowing that. I have to give credit where credit's due for the Ravens. They won the game against a divisional opponent. This is a 16-14 score, I think was the end. Yeah, 16-14 Ravens. They move up to 9-4. They're looking good in the AFC North, tied with the Bengals right now for the lead. And the Steelers are done. I do have a question,
they've been
though.
done.
Yeah, and they have been done, but I mean, like, Mike Tomlin. This is going to be. I'm positive this is going to be his first losing season. What does anything happen to him in the offseason? Do they move on?
No.
Is there talks
No.
of it? No.
No, there's no talks of it. Mike Tomlin would have to. He would have to have about 4 losing seasons in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing. It would be 2026 of losing seasons before I would say yeah.
That much.
He's just proven to be too good for too long.
Mm.
Like if the Patriots miss the playoffs 2 out of 3
Mm-hmm.
years, do they move on from Belichick? Like no.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
He's just in that league. But we're definitely not accustomed to seeing this out of the Steelers, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It doesn't even though the Steelers have had like a winning season every year Mike Tomlin's been a coach,
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't feel like they have in a way. You know what I mean? Like it feels like they barely had winning seasons. Like they were 9-8, 8-8. You know, that's considered a winning season.
It's considered a not losing season.
Yeah. It's like, don't get confused like with, he went 13-3, 12 years in a row. Like he didn't do that, but it just, but he had Big Ben and, Big Ben looked like my dad playing flag football drunk, the last like 5 years.
Oh, so many injuries.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the AFC South. I could literally sum up this game by what the Titans Pro Bowler said after the game. He said, we got our ass kicked.
Oh, yeah.
He said, we got our ass kicked. So, I mean, the Titans are crumbling, but they're also depleted. They have so many injuries going on, and it just doesn't feel like they're going to have any, like, they don't have their Division 1. They have a 2-game lead on Jacksonville right now.
Yeah.
And the question is, I mean, Jacksonville, obviously, they needed to win this game because it would have been a huge turn because they would have had one less win. They would have had one more. They would have had 4 wins. They would have had, 8, and it would have been a 4 game. Now it's within 2 games. This is a really, really important game. The Titans play the Chargers, and they're going to go Chargers, then Texans, then Cowboys, and then Jags to end the season. There's a scenario where the Jags are playing the Titans for the NFC South or the AFC South. Like, isn't that crazy to think that the Lions and the Jags could get into the playoffs this year?
It is a crazy thought, and I'm just thinking back to my take of like, yeah, the Titans win games, but they never give you that like, oh man, they're so good vibe, right? And they're just they're just, I don't know, they got the number 1 seed last year, and now they're just completely falling off. And you have to credit what Trevor Lawrence did in this game. This was probably the best game of his 2-year career so far, a year and 3/4 career.
Well, the Ravens game too was amazing.
The Ravens game was good. Yeah, that was kind of another surprise. He had 368 yards, had pretty much accounted for all 4 of the touchdowns scored in this game. And him and Evan Engram are like creating this like relationship now because he had 2 touchdowns with Engram. I think Lawrence is going to be.
I was just going to say Engram was the top scorer in fantasy all out of everybody in every position. He had 39.2 points.
Yeah, and that's after what do you get? 11 catches, 162 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think if Lawrence continues to kind of use Engram as like that guy where he could just dump it off to, right? Like he knows he's got a catch or he could throw it and he's got a catch there. He's going to be what you were talking about, Dak Prescott. He's going to be the opposite of Dak Prescott. The more Trevor Lawrence throws, the better the better the record is for him and the Jaguars. This offense was really good, and the defense on the Jacksonville side was just as good. Strip sacking Tannehill, picking him off, literally like just big hits on Derrick Henry, getting a fumble off Henry. They were able to make this Titans like team look bad. And this is, I think, the first time the Titans score more than 20 points, or they haven't scored 30 or something like that this entire season. I'm surprised they scored more than 2 touchdowns in this game because of the way the Jacksonville Jaguars were having their way with them.
Yeah, and Jacksonville's another team that is starting to get into form, and it makes sense. You bring in a new head coach,
Mhm,
and it takes, maybe 8, 10 games to really start getting things. And Trevor Lawrence is going to be good. Like, there's
mhm,
not a scenario where he's not going to be good. If you think about the Mel Kiper's quarterback prospect, he had John Elway's the highest grade ever,
mhm,
and he turned out to be great. And then he had Manning as the second highest, and then he had Andrew Luck,
mhm.
and then he had Trevor Lawrence was like between John Elway and Peyton Manning. So like this is this guy is one of the best prospects out of college that the NFL has had in over a decade.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to eventually become the guy, like, for a very long time. He doesn't run a lot. He could be a quarterback for 18 to 20 years,
Mhm.
and be a real problem. It's just it's because he plays for Jacksonville. It's hard for
Mhm.
us to like imagine it. But look at what the
It's
look
so
at what
true though.
the
It's so
yeah,
yeah.
because like look at what the Colts were before Manning was there.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks
Exactly.
about that. And if you have a kid that's, 6 years old and he's a Jaguars fan, there's a chance that by the time he's 18, 20, he says things like, yeah, Jacksonville's been good my whole life. Like
I know, right? Like, you almost hate that kid because 'cause you're like, "You don't know what I've been through as a Jags fan,"
yeah,
right?
yeah. Um, but yeah, it is good to see that Jacksonville, the city, they really rally around. They go to the game. They try to get into it, but they just Jacksonville for so many years.
Duval!
Yeah, they've just given them nothing to be happy about for so long.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. Jacksonville, obviously, if they win out, they have a very good chance of making the playoffs. Like if they win out, they probably have a 90% chance of playoff just because of the strength of schedule for Tennessee. Dallas at Sunday night, Jacksonville again, the Chargers after what just happened. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
It's
Tennessee's going to have to fight for the playoff spot.
it's crazy how on week 14, you still have so many question marks in division races. Like, there's still
Yeah,
so many question marks. Like, at this
totally.
point I feel like we should be like, "Yeah, Jacksonville definitely has a chance at a wild card." Not, "They definitely have a chance at the AFC South." You know what I mean? Like, it's like 2 different conversations. Years pass, you're like, "This is normal," but, like, you get to 2022 and you're like, "What is going on?" The NFL was flipped upside down on its head, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you if you went into a coma and you woke up today and it's like the Lions and Jags might be in the playoffs, you'd be like, "What did I miss? They were both 1-7."
Is the
You know?
early 90s? What's going on?
Um, well, we'll move on to our afternoon slate of games. Our first one being a game that I live streamed here with Only Football. It's the
Mhm.
Chiefs at Broncos game. Lot of a lot of just a lot of answers that were needed for Denver. Um I would say, like, collectively as a fan base, we needed to see our team fight. And
Yep.
even though we lost, it felt good to just see them fight
Mhm.
because we don't, we talk about it all the time. You're down 17 points, it's third and 12, and you check it down to a guy, and he doesn't even make a attempt to get the first down, and the punter comes out, and the crowd's booing, and you're just like, what are you guys doing? Like, the
Mhm.
Broncos played aggressively. They tried to win the game. They took the ball away. This is a game that it was 27-0, like 5 minutes into the second quarter.
Yeah.
27-0. I didn't even know. Like, I mean, I'm live streaming it, so like I'm not allowed to just stop watching the game. Not that I ever would, but I'm like,
You
wow.
wouldn't have been blamed though. That's the thing. Nobody would be like, "I'm so mad he stopped streaming this game." It's like the Broncos fan. No, there's no way.
Yeah, and it was just like I was like, I just kind of accepted. I'm like, all right, well, like, how bad is it going to get? That's really the only question I
Yeah.
had. I was like, is it going to be 30-0, 37-0?
Mhm.
And then they get that interception and the touchdown, and then the Chiefs get the ball back and they get another interception, Sertan. Then they
Mhm.
score again, so now it's 14-27. Then they get the ball, and then they score. So now it's 21-27. And it's like, okay, it's a 6-point game in the beginning
Yeah.
of the third quarter.
Yeah.
It's like, we're back.
Yeah.
And they only let up one more touchdown that whole game in the second half. But they were only able to score one more. So they still lose by 6. But Russell Wilson looked good. I mean, they put in the backup quarterback, and it was just like a reminder of like what it would look like if Russell Wilson wasn't at quarterback.
Yeah.
And no, they're out there with 3 receivers that are unrestricted free agents. Like, there's no KJ Hamler,
Mhm.
there's no Cortland Sutton, there's no Tim Patrick, there's no Javonte Williams. The whole
Yeah.
offensive line is new, guys that
Mhm.
we don't even know,
Yeah.
besides Quinn Miranez, who's on his second year. Like, it is literally like they just went to a free agent market and just grabbed a bunch of guys and said, "Suit up, you're playing Sunday." Like, that's
Yeah.
and Wilson's just back there running around and scrambling, and obviously he ended up getting a
Mhm.
concussion.
That was a rough
but-
hit, man. It looked bad what happened to him.
Did you see his head like swell up? And
Yeah.
not?
What is that called? Like a hematoma or something like that? Something
I don't
like that.
know.
Yeah, I just like when the blood all like, builds up like that. It
Yeah.
just it looked really rough. I was like, wow, I really hope he's okay. As much as we make fun of him, yeah, you still hope he's okay. He's a person.
Yeah.
That's a human being there. Like let's hope he's okay and no long-term damage is done.
Well, honestly, like, even if we would have lost every game that we've lost this season like that, like, I don't think we'd be mad. Like, I'm
No.
already over it. I was like, hey, like, we actually fought for this, and it just felt
Mhm.
good to see the Broncos fight. And there's one more Chiefs matchup in Arrowhead week 18, so we'll hopefully maybe win that one to snap the streak. But yeah, not really much to talk about. I will say the Chiefs, their defense is pretty bad, and
Yeah.
they just have a lot of young guys on the corner. They give up a lot of big plays, and I think it's going to be a problem come playoff
Mhm.
time to just put all that pressure on Mahomes, because there's other teams in the AFC that are just more complete than the Chiefs, but
Mhm.
people give the Chiefs the edge because they have Mahomes. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's just like, God forbid Mahomes shows up at 80%, the Chiefs are going down, And so I would, if you're a Chiefs fan, I would be concerned like going into the postseason, just because it's defense. It's January, December football. Like, you have to play defense. You have to run the ball and you have to play defense. Like, you're not going to go out there and sling the ball unless you're playing in a dome. And think about the AFC, all of the teams that are, favored to win, they don't play in domes. The Bengals don't play in domes. The Ravens don't play in domes. Titans don't play in domes.
Mhm.
So you go down the list and there's not that many domes to play in. So I think Kansas City is going to be in trouble come December or January if their defense doesn't tighten it up.
Yeah, and the Chiefs get that, like, they are similar to like getting that Brady effect. Well, I mean, Brady in the playoffs, like, you never know. Brady is just going to pop off because that's what Brady does, right? He's got 7 rings for a reason.
Totally.
So they definitely benefit from that from Mahomes. The defensive side looked bad, especially that entire, like, the last bit of the second quarter and then the entire second half, right? Luckily they kept it for a win. And they only in the Denver defense only let up one more touchdown after that. So I will say though that it's nice to it's nice to hear you not be like utterly devastated by this loss, because it's kind of like, it's just hearing you being like, you know what, they fought. And I feel like you said, if all games were like that, 20 plus points per game, and they're fighting to the very end, they lose by a score, one score, but the defense was good and the offense was like back to back. You're right. A lot of the Broncos worries would be like, yeah, well, let's wait till next year. Kind of like what I was saying last episode, right? And Russ Wilson showed a lot of heart in that game. He came out, obviously he had the concussion. He was out the rest of the game. And you're right. With the backup quarterback, it doesn't look any better. As much as like Russ has been off this year, a backup quarterback doesn't solve the problems the Broncos have on the offense. You said it yourself. It's a brand new offensive line. Top 3 receivers are not playing. Jerry Jeudy had a game, and that's should be expected from him.
3.
3 touchdowns. He had a hat trick, 3 touchdowns. So it's not like you can just plug in a quarterback from, on the bench and just be like, yeah, the Broncos problems are fixed. No, that's not how it is. But it's nice to hear you not be truly devastated by a Broncos loss.
Yeah, and if they would have scored as many points that they scored in the Chiefs game all season, they would be 12-2 right now. So
insane.
There's a stat for you. But I will say Demaryius Thomas, it is his 1 year death anniversary.
Yeah. Yep.
And the last receiver to score 3 touchdowns in a game was Demaryius Thomas. So that was pretty cool tribute to DT. He was definitely in mile high out there in spirit. So good for the family of DT to kind of see that tribute. We'll stay in the Russell Wilson and talk about his old team. Geno Smith. He officially has sharpened the pencil. he's been writing a lot.
He's got the notebook out. He's writing dear whoever. Yep.
Dear Carolina.
Yeah, dear Carolina.
This is me writing back. No, dear haters.
Dear haters.
Right? It's the haters that
you were right.
You were right.
Yeah, you were right. This Geno Smith had his first game where he threw multiple interceptions. And we got to remember, this game was the first time ever since the emergence of Kenneth Walker where Kenneth Walker was not in the game for the Seahawks. So that puts a lot of pressure on Geno because obviously he had a multi-interception game. What happened? Kenneth Walker was not there. Kenneth Walker was not able to do what Kenneth Walker does, get a stupid amount of yards, get touchdowns. So Geno Smith tried to do it all pretty much himself. For the Panthers is they kept running the ball. They were running the ball with Chuba Hubbard, Deontay Foreman, even Raheem Blackshear. All 3 of them ate yesterday against the Seahawks. The Carolina Panthers rushing attack is amazing. And what game was it? They against the Atlanta Falcons where they really showed out. Where I remember watching that Thursday night football game and being like, wow, why haven't they just been running the ball? Like, obviously you had CMC there, but why haven't you just been running the ball pretty much all season instead of kind of like, hey, let's rely on Baker. Hey, let's rely on PJ, right? Like they have weapons here in the running game, and they should have been doing that because they ran all over the Seahawks. So it was just a game for them.
You know what's super weird about this is that Odell's a Brown, and he, pouts his way out of town playing with Baker. And he goes to LA, and everyone's like, oh, Cleveland was the problem, right? And then you have Baker, who was in Cleveland. Then he goes to Carolina, and then Carolina, he can't get anything going. Then he goes to the Rams, and they're like, oh, Carolina was the problem.
Yeah.
It seems like the Rams are going to become the team. Send us your problems, and we will fix it.
Yeah.
Right?
And we will unleash their powers.
Yeah, and that's just a tribute to McVay, knowing how to unlock a player's full potential. And you look at, just some of these other guys that it seems like you really start wondering, like, what are they doing over there in Carolina? What just happened to Baker in LA? You're saying that guy got benched for Darnold, and Darnold, obviously, he got the win. So, but it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder about some of these organizations and the way they're ran when, they run people like Odell Beckham and Baker Mayfield out of town.
Yep. And we talked about it. It was either the week 14 prediction episode or the Sunday live stream. This is when a coach and a coordinator really matter because they are able to pinpoint where these players like strengths are and able to be like, let's build around their strengths, which makes them a better player, which makes them winners, which makes a team a winner, which makes you look good and get you a head coaching job or a Hall of Fame career, right? Look at the Browns right now. It might be Stefanski this entire time. It might be the coordinators in Cleveland. Yeah. It might be maybe Carolina is just a running team and they don't know how to utilize a Baker Mayfield. And the Browns don't know how to utilize a star player like Odell Beckham Jr., right? Like it's just, this is when the coaching matters. The talent is there, but when the coach can pinpoint like this guy is good at this, and we're going to use him in this sort of scheme, that's when the coaches like matter to the max.
No, totally. And like you said, with Kenneth Walker going out, we'll see if Geno ever, emerges, or he was just really reliant on the running game. Yeah. Because Geno didn't look good. And I put it in that video I made. I was like, we saw what Geno looks like without a running game. And it showed, and obviously I'm always going to hate a little bit just because he looked better than Russell Wilson for 12 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
So we'll go to my game of the week. I will say that my game of the week, the reason I had it my game of the week was because Brock Purdy, his parents a month ago bought tickets to this Bucs game at 49ers because they said they wanted to see Tom Brady live. They had no idea that they were going to see their son play in his first NFL start at this game. And you see Brock Purdy go out there and you see, him go up 35-0 on Tom Brady, the GOAT, kind of Mr. Irrelevant himself at the age that the new Mr. Irrelevant was. It felt like it felt very poetic in some way. It felt like the circle of life was taking place in front of you on a football field. And you see his dad in tears, his dad crying, the emotion in the family. And I think a lot of that emotion is, of course, Brock Purdy getting his NFL start. Even if he sucked, there probably would have been emotion in the air. But Brock Purdy stepping up into the pocket, throwing deep balls downfield to the sideline, scrambling around, getting that touchdown with his legs. I mean, Brock Purdy didn't go out there with, the mindset, hey, we have the best defense in the NFL. All you have to do is not fuck up. That's all you have to do, and we'll be fine. No. That's not what Brock Purdy was doing. Brock Purdy went out there to win the game. He didn't play to not lose. He played to win. And he went out there, and I think he was the shock of the season, potentially. There's Baker Mayfield and what he did on Thursday, and there's what Brock Purdy did, which, fortunately for us as the fans, we're going to get a larger sample size of this. Brock Purdy playing his next game. Next week, he'll obviously start probably for the rest of the season. You don't take a hot hand like that out anytime soon. He goes in the playoffs and he wins the Super Bowl potentially for the 49ers. With this defense, they could win the Super Bowl. And all of a sudden being drafted in the 5th round is not the coolest story we've ever heard. Being drafted with the last pick in the last round and winning a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy, I mean, if he wins a Super Bowl, boy, are we going to have a fun offseason talking about Trey Lance and what's going on with all this, because I was completely shocked by what took place on Sunday.
Same, dude. Same. And Purdy makes me Brock hard. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Oh my God.
He makes me Brock hard. He had a game against the Bucs, and this Bucs defense isn't good, but it's not that bad, and they looked bad against this 49ers team.
So many
what's
weapons.
Even
the 49ers have so many weapons.
They have so many weapons. Unfortunately, Debo did go down with an injury after he got tackled by one of the Bucs guys. So hopefully that's not too bad. I don't know exactly what happened. I think
it was a high ankle sprain.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I'm going to check into it really quick.
Yeah, it was carted. He was carted off. I don't know what, like you said, if it's a high ankle sprain, that sucks because ankle sprains, from what I've heard, are bad.
Yeah, but MCL ankle sprain.
MCL.
Expected to return before playoffs.
Okay, so I mean that's the good news, I guess. But I was gonna say, what's worse than this Bucks defense is this Bucks offense. Uh, Brady looks bad, man. Brady looks slow. Brady does not look like Brady. Brady doesn't look like the guy who won 7 Super Bowls. And obviously he's what, 46 years old, 40, 45, something like that.
Yeah. 45.
It caught up to him to be, and it sucks to see Brady in such a bad look. Just looking bad, basically, is what I'm trying to say. He looks bad right now.
It's
But
like seeing your dad get beat up. You know, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's almost like, oh, what the you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we can't discredit what he's done over his career. He played until he was in his mid 40s and he won 7 Super Bowls. When you look at the overall career, yeah, this is probably not going to be one of the bright spots, but man, it's like, wow, remember Tom Brady? Hall of Famer, greatest quarterback of all time. Like, he is that guy, right? But he just, that offense looked bad. There was a holding call that erased a 60-yard touchdown to Mike Evans, I think it was. It is just, this Bucks team looks bad. The NFC South, I think, is just like wide open all of a sudden, because we really thought that it was between either the Bucks or the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons have fallen off. Now the Panthers are 5-8 and like a game back of the NFC South title. NFC South title. Like, I don't know what to think anymore. This is like what I said earlier. Week 14, we should be talking about who's going to be a wild card team. We're still talking about who's going to be the division winner for a lot of these divisions. So, but yeah, Brady looked bad. I feel bad. It sucks because he went through a whole divorce to play another season, and this season is taking a toll on him, like bad.
Yeah, I think he'll be back with a different team next year. I don't see him going out like this. A competitive guy like that. Another competitive guy, Jerry Rice, after the game, he did say, please stop running our skill players up the middle. You had the injury to Trey Lance, then you had the injury to Jimmy Garoppolo, and now, of course, you have the injury to Tyshawn Roquan Samuel, also known as Debo. So hopefully they'll be able to get him back healthy. I always want to see players at their maximum when they're in the playoffs. And I never want to see a team that's like without their star weapon, win a playoff game. Of course, unless the Broncos are playing that team. But then it's like, I still don't want to see it. Then I want them gone. Yeah. And then we have our game last night. So not as many games, if you guys noticed, but there was quite a few teams, 6 teams on a bye week. So the Falcons, Bears, Packers, Colts, Saints, and Commanders did not play. We did live stream the game last night. The Dolphins at Chargers. The Dolphins just look bad. It seems like it seems like the timing is off with the offense. He's throwing the ball in places and receivers are kind of looking around like, where did you think I was going to be? And I really don't know right now what to make of it, because we've seen the Dolphins, when they are good, we've seen them look really good, right? But when they're bad, they look bad. So
they look unorganized. They look like they didn't practice all week or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the Dolphins feel like kind of like a toxic relationship.
I was gonna say a Pee-wee football team, but yeah, toxic relationship. Let's go with that.
It's like there's enough to keep you like clinging on, but when they might just eat a total like that game last night was. I'm not overreacting, right? That was really bad.
No, but I love that. I love that comparison, because I'm like, God, why is he talking about my early to mid 20s right now? No, they look bad, man. The Dolphins, and we said this during the live stream. The first half of the Dolphins was absolute garbage. The Chargers went up 10-0, and like you said, the Dolphins looked unorganized. Tua couldn't put the football anywhere. If it wasn't for that Tyreek fumble recovery touchdown, this game probably would have been an even bigger blowout. It probably would have been like 23-7. I think it ended 23-17. It probably would have ended up 23-7.
We were having so much fun on the live stream last night. I totally forgot that one of the touchdowns was a was
Yeah.
a scoop and score. Like I
Yeah.
totally forgot
Ginger
about
was
that.
there. Ginger was
Yeah.
there. Ginger, you remember that? Ginger, we had Josh on there, and we had God, who else do we have on there? I forgot who else we had. We had a third guy on there. I forget who it was. But
Yeah, it was a good
yeah,
time.
it was one of them. But it was it's like, how do you forget that? It's because the offense for the Dolphins was that bad that game on
Yeah.
Sunday night. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there really isn't much to say. The Chargers and Herbert threw it like 51 times for 320 something yards. He had a really good game. He just had a better game than Tua. It can be that simple where it's like, hey, the Chargers offense was clicking and the Dolphins offense wasn't clicking. And that's just the game that was on yesterday. That's it.
Yeah, totally. And probably forgot about it because I was so wrapped up in super bad quotes during the game.
Yeah, with Ginger. Yeah.
Shrek quotes. I
Yeah.
sent him a Shrek thing I made out of spirit. We'll move on
That's funny.
to the Cardinals game.
Mhm.
It was really not the Cardinals game. That was the Patriots game.
Oh, yeah.
And the game was pretty close. It was tied 13 apiece going into the halftime, and then it came out in the third quarter, and the whole game changed when Hopkins, what's his first name? I'm drawing a blank. What is my deal there?
DeAndre Hopkins.
DK
Yeah.
Hopkins.
We don't do names here.
When DeAndre Hopkins caught a ball and then he tried to make a move, he was running to the outside, and instead of running like this, he was running like this.
Oh, bad move.
Then he got tackled and did that. He must have shook Melvin Gordon's hand before the game. And then the ball hits the ground.
You're allowed to make that comment. You as a Broncos fan are definitely allowed to make that comment.
So he drops the ball, scoop and score,
Mhm.
and it got ugly from that point on. I mean, there's certain guys that aren't going to mount a comeback, and Colt McCoy is on the list of guys that aren't going to mount the comeback.
And it sucks because Kyler Murray went out super early in this game. He
looked bad, like his injury.
Yeah, it did look bad. And I saw the replay. It didn't look bad on the replay, but the fact that he was carted off was like upset and was like in pain. You could see it in his face. It was like, oh man, but this guy's face and this guy's reaction to what just happened makes it look terrible. So, hopefully it's nothing crazy that happened to Kyler. You never want to root or cheer for anybody, with an injury like that, but he went out early and go ahead. What'd you say?
I was going to say, unless they're playing the Broncos next week.
You're terrible.
I know. I'm just kidding.
He's not. Get him, Twitter. But Colt McCoy, like you said, not the guy who's going to make a comeback, not the guy who's going to lead your team to a win, especially with your star quarterback going down, and especially with DeAndre Hopkins making mistakes like that. So I was watching. I was also recording Big League Chicago, so I was like watching and kind of what here and there. But the Patriots, their rushing game looks good. Mac Jones, not terrible, 230 plus yards. He did have an interception, but the rushing game for the Patriots looked good. Ramondre Stevenson did go out early as well, so there was injuries on both sides. But you had Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris each rushing for a touchdown, and some field goals here and there for the Patriots. And I think they also got a interception, pick six or a fumble six.
Yeah, there was like a what was it? A fumble six, and then that was for the Cardinals, and then they ruled it incomplete. And Mac Jones threw like a league high. There might have been a pick six. I'm not sure. Yeah. I turned it on at halftime. I was recording videos, but nice. Mac Jones threw a career high 11 screen passes in the game, and he also, it's worth noting, was screaming at the offensive coordinator, and then he was like walking away from him while he was like calling him over. So not the first time we've seen the fireworks between them two. Mm-hmm. I don't know. This kind of seems like probably what happens when you bring in, you play mystery about who's going to be your play caller. And then you just have a guy that's never done it start calling plays. And Mac Jones, coming from Alabama, a very professional college that is very pro ready, is probably like, whatever he's mad about, he just seems like he has the right to be mad. Like you
Yeah.
can just tell by the body language. Like he
Yes.
just seems like he's tired of the like dumb shit. It's kind of like the way he's like acting on the field. So that was that was just a couple things I wanted to say. The screen passes and then Mac Jones, and because I think it said the Patriots had a 6% chance of making the playoffs if they lost, but if they won, it was like 27. So it was an
Mhm.
important win for the Patriots to stay alive.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that was it's interesting to see because at the end of the game after they won, right? Like winning kind of cures everything. Mac Jones and Patricia were just like, having a laugh, talking to each other, this and that. So it just goes to show winning solves a lot of problems. But that was week 14. Again, still a lot of questions, especially in the divisional races. But I mean, that's the kind of season we're in. We're in a really weird season where the Lions are favorites against 10-2 Vikings team. The NFC South is still up for grabs with both teams, with the Tom Brady led team under 500 and underperforming on the offensive side. Who would have thought, right? So this is week 14 for you. And just to go over the record of what me and Kyle had predicted for week 14, our overall record 74-36. So credit to us. Credit to us. I think we're better than Vegas in predicting games straight up. When it comes to individual records, it's getting a little closer. Last week, Kyle, you were up 3 games on me. You were up 29-26. This week, you are 31-29, and I'm 29-31. It's only 2 games. So we had a really close week.
Imagine you.
I'm being edged. So that's the record so far. And yeah, another crazy week in football, but let us move on to our next segment. Probably one of my favorite ones, I think. Let's play it.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5, top 5, top 5.
Top 5, top 5, top 5. Where Kyle and I give you our top 5 teams after each week, pretty much. So, Kyle, let's go over our top 5. We kind of gave it away a little bit earlier that there was definitely going to be some movement in our top 5. And for me, it was just movement. There are no teams that went out. There are no teams that came in.
Just slide in the pieces.
Let's just 5. Who slide in the pieces? Who do you have at number 5 this week after week 14, Kyle?
I have Dallas. I have Dallas at number 5. It's that loss or I call it a loss, right? Because it just feels like a loss when you play like that. So, yeah, Dallas is going to stay in the top 5 because I've seen what they look like when they're firing on all cylinders, but definitely they're going to take a back seat after that Sunday performance.
Yeah, and I also have them at number 5. They were number 4 for me last week. And they dropped down to number 5 after that very, very close win against the Texans, in which they were favored by 16 points to win by more than 16. So to only win by what was it? 4 points, 3 points, something like that. It's kind of like, what's going on, right? So
yeah, they ran it in with like 40 seconds left with Zeke.
Yeah, so
it was like
it was just like, oh my God, right? Like it was like, what's going on? They stayed top 5 for me as well, but they moved down a spot to number 5. Moving on to number 4, I've got the Chiefs at number 4. They let the Broncos come back on them. And, again, not to be mean, but the Broncos have been absolutely terrible this year. They have been absolutely terrible this year. You even got Alpha Vivid here. Broncos country. Let's ride.
Let's ride, baby.
Twitch. Yeah. See, Kyle loves you. But the Chiefs moved to number 4 for me because of that close game against the Broncos, letting them come back, but the defense did end up stopping them at the end, and Mahomes did just enough. So, Kyle, who do you have at number 4?
This actually works. I love it. I can hear you. I feel like a quarterback. Call a play.
I was going to say, you look like a quarterback getting ready to call a play. So you have a number 4. Hike.
I got the Chiefs at number 4. Obviously,
you do.
Yep, I got to move them down. There's just other teams playing better football right now. But it's Kansas City, like you said. There's guys like Tom Brady. There's guys like Peyton Manning and Patrick Mahomes. You don't want to play him in December. You don't want to play him in January. So Kansas City, is making their top 5 appearance and a team that could go to the Super Bowl.
There you go. All right. Who do you have at number 3, Kyle?
All right. Number 3, I have San Francisco. I got the 49ers. The 49ers are just playing really good defense, and Brock Purdy is my new favorite player in the NFL.
Mhm.
So I think if he can score 35 points in 3 quarters and the defense is going to give up 0 points, they could be the best team in the NFL right now, and we're just late to the party.
Yeah, maybe. And I agree with you. I have the 49ers at number 3 as well. I feel like you're looking at my notes somehow, even though they're my notes. I don't know how this is happening, but yeah, see, there you go. So number
Damn,
2,
I hope you
number
didn't see this.
2, Bills.
Buffalo.
Yes.
No!
Yes. We have the same top five for I think the first time in only.
You have the
football
Colts at 1?
history. Yeah, I got the Colts at 1.
No!
So the Bills, they took the win against the Jets. They showed they went off to a big lead in the beginning, right? And they maintained. They didn't let, Josh Allen didn't give up one of his infamous interceptions to kind of seal the game for the Jets as a win. He did enough to, he rushed for a touchdown, he threw for a touchdown. He did enough to beat this very, very good Jets defense. That's why I have him at number 2.
I agree with that. No challenge flag. I'm not throwing a challenge flag on that. Not calling a timeout. I agree with everything that you're saying. Buffalo, and really, I mean, now that the season's kind of coming to an end here,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you, who's your Super Bowl prediction?
Oh man, this is tough.
Week 14 edition. You can't say the Lions.
The Lions versus the Titans.
What if
No,
they
I'm just
did
kidding.
it? What if the Lions won the Super Bowl?
I don't know. And so this is actually a good question here by Alpha Vivid. Head to head, y'all see Bills beating the 49ers? I don't know, man. That's a good one because we were talking about it. Now, this is actually a very, very realistic.
In Santa Clara?
What's up?
In Santa Clara or in Buffalo?
No,
I
he's talking
need to know.
he's talking about Super Bowl.
Oh, like in the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
I thought he was just saying well, I'm going to say
That's
no.
a good question.
I'm going to say no because defense wins championships.
I could agree with that. As a guy who's been a Bears fan my entire life and have loved defense for basically my entire life, I would agree. Although, if it's Brock Purdy with no playoff experience versus Josh Allen with 2 years, I think already of playoff experience, I might take the guy with playoff experience. Now,
if he's
that's
in the
not
Super Bowl.
Right, but that's not to good point. That's not to discredit, anything that the San Francisco 49ers have done, because outside of Brock Purdy, it seems like every other player has been in the playoffs. I think maybe except for CMC, who they just got this season. But that's a very good question. But number 1, it looks like we both have the Eagles at number 1. Kyle, why do you have the Eagles at number 1?
I have the Eagles at number 1 because they can beat you so many different ways. Their defense is good. They got their defensive lineman back. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan.
They're, like you said, Miles Sanders just went off, had himself a little game there on Sunday. And then you got Devontae Adams, you got AJ Brown, who, he's such a good receiver that you got teams firing GMs over it. You know what I mean? Like talk about being like a really jealous ex-boyfriend. It's like, hey, you're fired. You got rid of AJ Brown. Like, I mean, Jalen Hurts is the MVP of the NFL. I've been saying it. I'm going to say it. I'm not going to stop saying it. I watch Patrick Mahomes, and look, Patrick Mahomes gets a lot of style points. I mean, you see him throw the ball, like the flick that he did on Sunday. I hated watching that, and I hated that I was live for it because I couldn't even cry. I was just like, and then I was like,
so
literally
mad.
I was like at a loss for words, and I was like, you're live right now. Like, you can't just be mute. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, come on. No, just the Eagles are playing all around complementary football. Their defense, if the offense isn't good, their defense can step up and take the ball. Jalen Hurts can just beat you with his legs. He can beat you with
Mhm.
his arm. He's getting smarter. He's becoming a better passer. He's very clutch.
Yep.
He is a coach's son. He's going to take it one game at a time. He's never going to overlook an opponent. I just think the Eagles are just, if you look at the whole NFL and you had to take one team, the Eagles are the best team in the NFL right now, and it's been that way for 14 weeks.
Yeah, and you got Alpha Vivid here in the comments agreeing with every single thing. W take. This is the Eagles Super Bowl to lose, in my opinion. And I agree with you. I agree with Alpha Vivid here. Like the Eagles, like I said, they're the most complete team in the NFC, and they're more than likely going to make it to the Super Bowl. Obviously, you got the 49ers there, and Alpha Vivid actually put another comment here with the 49ers. You could put anyone at QB for the 49ers. All they need to do is get the ball to CMC and let the defense do their thing. I mean,
Totally.
yeah,
That
even Debo. Is Debo supposed to come back? You can give it to Debo. You can give it to George Kittle. You can give it to Ayuk. You have so many weapons on this 49ers team. But yeah, I still think, like you said, I still think it's the Eagles Super Bowl to lose.
can leave that up for a second because I just want to reply to it too.
Yeah.
You came in a little bit late, Alpha, but I was saying earlier that exact comment. I was like, dude, you could put anybody in with that defense
Mhm.
and they could be successful. But what was so impressive about Brock Purdy? And I said, look, all the coaches and everybody was probably telling him, like all of his friends were like, hey man, all you got to do is not fuck up and you'll win. That's all you have to do.
All you got to do is game manage.
All you got to do is game manage. And what I saw though was that you sent a guy out there and the guy did not play to not lose. He played to win. Like, even though that is entirely true, Brock Purdy, even though it's true, you could put anyone in at quarterback and they would be fine. Brock Purdy did more than that. And we have to, as people that break down games, we have to talk about that. Like, we have to say, like, hey, this is the case for a team that well, but that's not what happened. Brock Purdy came in and had 35 points on the scoreboard. And if you watch the game, it didn't come by just handing it to CMC. It came by throwing 40-yard passes down the sideline. He was throwing passes that he was getting hit, standing in the pocket, taking big hits, throwing the ball. I mean, Brock Purdy, it's just one game, but talk about something you like to see. If you're a 49ers fan, all of a sudden, this is looking really, really exciting.
Yeah, and he agrees with you. Very true. He did well and lived up to the challenge. That's why I'm saying we should all make a t-shirt called Purdy Makes Me Brock Hard. And I'm just saying that's like $1 million idea, Alpha. I think Alpha would agree with me. Purdy makes me Brock Hard. But that was our top five. Alpha, thanks for your input here. Talking about Broncos, talking about 49ers, talking about the Eagles. He's got another comment here. Also, side note, Debo is hurt. I heard he's going to miss a game or two with a minor injury. Yep, we covered that. So Kyle looked it up. You said he was going to come back before the playoffs, correct?
Yeah, high ankle sprain with an MCL. It does say that he's expected to return before the playoffs. But I think if you're the 49ers, there's a chance that, you just kind of let the guy sit until you're absolutely sure. No sense in coming back in a Week 18 game if you already got the division wrapped up. And the way Seattle is probably going to start tumbling a little bit, the Rams are probably going to, get a couple wins. So there's a chance by week 17 that the 49ers are already in. So I don't see him coming back until the playoffs personally.
Yep. High ankle, always a tough one, like you said. All right, let's move on to our final segment of the episode, talking fantasy talk. Fantasy. Oh yeah, Alpha didn't know. Thank you guys. I actually didn't know about the injury. Glad I found it. Hey, thanks. Thank you for subscribing, by the way. I did see the notification that you subscribed to us on Twitch. Appreciate that, man.
Oh yeah.
And being in the comments with us. We always love the conversation with the comments. Let's talk fantasy here. Kyle and I actually went head to head this week. And
it was Purdy. It was a Purdy one.
It was the opposite of Purdy. So my highest scoring guys only had 4 guys in double digits. And obviously the first one, Josh Allen, 20.5 points. Najee Harris, surprise, surprise, 33 yards and a touchdown, 13 points. Freiermuth with 3 receptions, 33 yards and a touchdown with 12.3 points. And then the Buffalo defense gave me 11 points. Overall, though, the rest of my my squad being Nick Chubb, Stephon Diggs, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Noah Fant, by the way, as my flex, 0 points. Just want to point that out. And Evan McPherson is my kicker. I totaled 79.98 points, and I barely beat Kyle. Not barely. I beat you by 17 points, but that's because your team was rough.
Yeah. If you would have told me Ramondre Stevenson, Devontae Adams, and CeeDee Lamb will combine for 19 points,
yeah,
I would have said you're a liar.
Stephon Diggs with only 6.7 though. Like I would have been like, you're high on pot news.
Yeah, I mean, Alvin Kamara was on a bye week, but he hasn't been good anyway. I wasn't gonna play him, but I should have put Ezekiel Elliott in the game. But honestly, it was like already out of the playoffs, and this usually happens to people that are out of the playoffs. They have a kicker in with a bye week or something like that. But yeah, I mean, nothing really. I mean, there's literally nothing to report. I had nothing good happen to me. Ramondre Stevenson had 3. I put in Raheem Mostert just because Kenneth Walker was out of the game. It's just, if you would have told me Alvin Kamara would be on a bye, Kenneth Walker would be hurt. And Ramondre Stevenson would be hurt, and I still have running back options. Talk about depth, but it didn't matter this week because they didn't pay off.
Yeah. No, it was a bad week for you. And it was funny because while we were live streaming Sunday night's game between the Dolphins and the Chargers, I was like, please, Mostert, please don't have a big game. Please, I need you to score like less than 5. And I mean, he scored 5.4. So kind of similar to what I wanted. We got Alpha Vivid here in the comments. My team is kind of stacked. Y'all would think I am cheating based on the team I have been able to get in a 12-man league. Who do you got? I want to know who you got. Like, is it a 12-man league? Is this like a 1 quarterback league? Because like, have you heard of like 2 quarterback leagues? 2 quarterback leagues are ridiculous, man. Like the points scored in those types of leagues is like in the 200s, like on an average.
Yeah. No, I love seeing like different people's leagues and how they're set up. And I'm like, you guys been doing this for like 5 years. It's like, damn, we've always kind of been just standard PPR. We're a 10-man league. Let's see who Alpha's got. He's probably trying to type it all out right now.
Yeah.
One QB, 2 running back,
2 wide receivers, 1 flex, 1 defense, 1 kicker. Yeah, pretty standard of what we got too. And luckily with the win against Kyle, I move on to 7-7 for the season, and I still get. Let me see if I may have either the 5th or the 6th seed in the playoffs. So I'm going to be in the playoffs. Kyle, unfortunately, is not going to make the playoffs, but don't feel too bad. He was the champion in the first year of our league. So, good for him. Alpha Vivid, quarterback, Burrow and Fields, running back, James Conner, Josh Jacobs, and Kamara. Jesus Christ, that's already a stacked team right there.
Kamara's been trash this year.
He's had a couple good games.
He had one good game.
Yeah, you would know because you had him on the squad. But so far, Burrow and Fields, those are 2 good quarterbacks. Yeah, I wonder. I had Josh Allen, and I picked up Fields after his first 30+ point game, and I stashed him. And then he had another almost 40-point game, and I had him on the bench for Josh Allen, and I lost that week. So I'm like, you know what? I'm putting Justin Fields in the next week, and he got me the win because he scored 29, 30 points. So really good quarterbacks there for you, Alpha Vivid. I like that. Really good. Really good team.
Justin Fields, week 2, 3, 4, and 5 combined, he had 23 points. And that was in the beginning of the season when I was like, I was getting so mad. I was like, what are they doing with him? Like, do you remember me telling you? I'm like, he's got 13 pass attempts on the year. And it was week 3.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, this is the NFL. What are they doing?
You were saying, and I love this. I love when you said this. You're like, are the Bears stuck in 1985? Because they're just running the ball and not able to pass it. Alpha Vivid's wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Hopkins. Bull, there's no way. Marquise Brown, Chris Olave, Christian Watson and Olave and Marquise Brown I could see. But the fact that you have Kupp, Jefferson, and Hopkins, that's insane to me. Eagles defense, and you got McPherson as a kicker. McPherson as a kicker has been pretty solid, but that's a stacked team, dude. I don't know how you got that.
That is as stacked as stacked gets.
I was gonna say
Who's your tight end?
The 11 other guys on your fantasy league must have been on like auto draft or something because that was insane.
Or ayahuasca.
Dude, is Aaron Rodgers here? I'm just gonna pick whatever Green Bay Packer is close to him.
He's like they drafted Aaron Rodgers in the first round.
Tight end is Kelsey. Dude, your team is stacked. Your team is absolutely stacked. I love it. Well, that was our episode for today. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to Alpha Vivid. Thank you to Jao C. I'm going to call you JC whenever you join us. And thank you to Jinja Ninja for, hopping in the comments, stirring up some conversation, making me and Kyle fight, but not really. So thank you for that. And, you guys want to check out any other podcasts on Star 6 Media because we are brought to you by Star 6 Media. You can find Star 6 Media on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all at Star 6 Media, except the Twitter. You got to do @_ Star 6 Media for Twitter. So make sure to do that. And go check out our other podcast, EAFP, where you have Eric talking about all things World Cup and soccer. JCA Sports on Wednesdays, Big League Chicago. Actually just finished that with Jack and Eric. Sports Strip Live for all your wrestling, boxing, MMA needs. 3 Up, 3 Down for all your MLB news and updates, especially with free agency heating up. And then Slot Shot NHL podcast for all your hockey and NHL news with Alex, Jack, and Ross. Thank you guys for joining us here on Only Football. Let me see. I just want to put in these last couple of things for Alpha Vivid. I traded for Jacobs for Henderson in week 3. Not a bad. That's a good trade. Had some amazing trades that works for me. That's good. Yeah, because I tried trades this year and some of them worked out, some of them not so much. I know Kyle had trouble trading people.
Hey, if you can pick up T.Y. Hilton.
Hinton, yeah, T.Y. Hinton or T.Y. Hilton. Hilton.
Yeah, pick him up.
Yeah,
pick him up before anyone else does. Do you know why?
Yeah. Why?
Because he was acquired today by the Cowboys. No Odell Beckham.
No
T.Y.
OBJ.
Hilton instead.
T.Y. Hilton. And T.Y. Hilton's about to have one good game and then be absolutely forgotten about the next game.
We'll see. Alpha he said we'll do.
Like,
so
we'll do. Yeah.
Let us know on our next episode.
Next episode we're going live is Wednesday here on Only Football. I'm going to hit you with some live streams later this weekend as well. But again, thank you to all you guys who came in the comments, Alpha Vivid, JC, and Jinja Ninja. Jinja, always awesome to see you here. But from us here, Kyle, you got anything else before we get out of here?
Nope. We still got to get that NASCAR podcast. So when you're naming all the sports.
Oh god!
I'm not going to let it go until we have a NASCAR podcast.
I'm going to get Jeff Gordon to have a NASCAR podcast for Star 6 Media. Like I said, go below to all the at Star 6 Media and go follow us. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, rate us on all podcast platforms. For me and Kyle, see ya.